not the one you came with last time.
That has been a huge blessing and a big, amazing change.
We had to help you.
That's true. Yeah.
Because you was accused of it before y'all was engaged.
Oh, yeah. I was
We already knew the story, you just didn't know it.
I was like, I'm sure. I don't know what you're talking about. And if you did it again, I'd be like, she's not my fiance. She's my wife. I'm very grateful for that. Other updates in my life, the Aimers. This is I think I mentioned this, but this will be my last year working with the AIM program as I will be finishing up school in May. or different church events, I hear that phrase a lot. It's like, oh, you're being called by God, or I was called by God. I'm working in the AIM program with the students. When the students hear all of these different field presentations from missionaries, I hear the AIMers always say, I just feel God calling me to go to this mission field. And I feel like sometimes we don't really understand what that phrase means, to be called by God. Or at least in this instance, how the book of Jonah phrases it, when the word of God comes upon us. And so that's how the chapter starts. But what does that mean? Well, this phrase, this action that God is doing, it can be best defined as a collaboration to accomplish something. If you go back and look at the original meaning of the word in Hebrew, in the Old Testament, it'll give you a bunch of definitions for what it could mean. But my favorite one is that it's this thing that you're collaborating with God. It's something when God calls, when the word comes upon you, it is almost like God is asking you, let's accomplish this thing, this goal together. It is something that will come to pass, or even merely, it can mean something to just exist. Like if the word of God came upon us, he's saying, I want this thing to happen, and I'm choosing you to work alongside me to accomplish this goal. Now, I want us to just think about that concept. The God of all creation, this being that created us, he is coming upon Jonah and saying, I want to work alongside you to do something great. That's an amazing opportunity. But it's really funny because I don't think Jonah saw it that way. He didn't see it as this blessing from God being like, hey, I want to do something alongside you. I want to bring something to pass. His reaction was, I'm going to reject this message, but not only reject it, he runs from it. But can we relate to Jonah here in this moment? I know I can. And the question I want to ask you guys is, what have you run away from that God has called you to do? What is something when you feel like God has called you to accomplish something for him, alongside with him? Have you ever run from that? And if so, if you were willing to share, what would that calling have been? And it can be something as simple as, I felt like God calls us to be kind to people, and I just didn't want to be kind to this one person for whatever reason. Or it could be, there was this opportunity to maybe take up a ministry position, and I didn't want to do it. It could be anything. But what were those situations?
To love our enemies.
To love our enemies.
It's not very easy.
It's not easy. That's a very big one. I remember when I was writing this down, that was the first one that came to mind, is that very simple calling God asks of us is, hey, love your enemies. Treat everyone as how I would treat them. Because there's not a person that we haven't laid our eyes on that God hasn't loved or doesn't love. Isn't that a crazy thought? And that might not seem like it's like, well, that's not big news, Gabe. That's kind of been known, but at least for me, as someone who has a hard time loving his enemies, that kind of concept kind of gets away from me. But yeah, loving our enemies is something that we're called to do, but sometimes we run away from it. What else?
Love your wife.
Love your wife.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, to love your spouse, to treat your spouse. And I like how the Bible puts it. It's like husbands love your wife as Christ has loved the church. And then it says, wives be submissive to your husband. They both have a role to fill.
You left out a real important part.
What I leave out?
Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her. We want to be the recipients a lot of times. We don't want to be the ones who give ourselves to the point of sacrificing what we want or what we like.
And that's a very hard thing to do. I've only been married, a little over 2 months, and I still have that instinct to think selfishly just for myself. And God calls me, he's like, you can't do that anymore. You have someone else to think about. But that's not always easy. Sometimes I want to run away from that and be like, no, I just want to do what I want right now. I don't want to think about it. I want to be considerate. And I'm grateful that my wife has been so supportive. God calls us to do this, and I want to love you as well. So I'm very grateful for someone like Daisy that reminds me of what God calls me to do. There's a lot of things I think we can mention that we run from that God calls us to do. But why is it that we might, or what would be the reason someone might run